note, we're going to cover the story of the hour, and one that has caused a lot of speculation, not just in the consuming community, but also in Indian industry, and the political pot shots have been taken. But who better than Sanjeev Sanyal, Principal Economic Advisor in the Ministry of Finance, who joins us right here with his views and the government's take on the cash crunch. Thanks very much, Mr. Sanyal, for being with us. I really have to begin with a very, very simple question. Cash crunch seems to be very, causing a lot of panic within people. People are rushing to banks. There could be a run, is what a lot of experts are saying. What has caused this cash crunch all of a sudden? And we're not just seeing it in pockets of the country, we are seeing it across states. Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, UP, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan. A number of states is where ATMs are running dry. What would you attribute this to?
Let me begin by assuring everyone that there is nothing to panic about. There's plenty of cash, and we will quite definitely print a lot more for you. So there is nothing to panic at all. Now, having said that, as I think the Finance Minister and the DEA Secretary would have already pointed out, there has been some, let's say, unusual demand for cash in recent weeks, particularly starting out with Karnataka and Telangana, but then spreading to other parts of the country. While I would not like to speculate on who and why this unusual demand suddenly came from, the fact is, we have now responded to this, and every effort will be made to make sure that ATMs across the country have more than adequate cash for you.
Okay, ATMs will have more cash is the assurance that's coming in from Finance Ministry. But the reason why I asked you that question, and even at the cost of sounding repetitive, I do want to dispel the speculation. The speculation out there and the panic out there is, could this be DeMo 2.0?
No, not at all. This is not demonetization 2.0, nor is this, as some people have speculated, something to do with the the standing of the banks. The banking sector is in absolutely no risk at all. And in fact, if anything, in the recent weeks, we have seen the insolvency and bankruptcy process go forward, and the banking sector beginning to get some money back. So in fact, if anything, we are cleaning up the banks. They will be much, much better in the next few months than they have been. And so I think there is absolutely nothing to get too worried about at all.
Okay, let me just take some numbers, and you're right, you say there has been an unusual activity and that is where demand has gone up. But if I actually go through the numbers, Dr. Sanyal, why are people withdrawing so much money? Why is there so much of cash in circulation? 6.23 lakh crores in January, and SBI in an interview earlier today, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar very categorically said, as of today, 18.42 lakh crore rupees. You do the math, and about 50,000 crore rupees more have been withdrawn on a per month basis. That is a very, very high number. Why is there so much of a cash requirement in the economy? One fails to understand when you do the math.
Well, I wouldn't like to speculate on this because it will lead to all kinds of finger pointing until we have got to the bottom of the issue. But let me point out that while these they are unusual speculations, and there may be various reasons for it, we are in a position to meet that demand. It's not something that we will not meet, and there certainly isn't the case that we are attempting some sort of a demonetization or a second round. There will be enough cash. As I said, when there is a sudden rush for it, of course, it takes a little while to respond because we have to print and so on. But the situation has now been identified, and every action will be taken to ease it.
Sir, I want to ask you one question out of curiosity, and if I actually look at the numbers, that question is coming to my mind. The currency in hands of public as a percentage increased from 8.8% in 2014 to actually 39.2% in 2018. What are you going to attribute this accelerated use of cash to?
As I said, I do not want to speculate on this. as I said, it is certainly very unusual, and but be very clear that, you know, for a fair length of time after demonetization, it had stabilized at a certain level, and then this sudden jump, which you have seen in recent weeks. So I do not want to now, you know, go and begin speculating why and how this happened, whether or not there's some something coordinated about it at all. You know, until we have investigated the matter and come to the bottom of it, I would not like to speculate. However, we would like to assure you that whatever demand comes, unusual or not, we will meet it. We are in a position to do so, and we will, in the next few days, be able to ship out enough cash to cover it.
But Dr. Sarel, I have to ask you this question. The DA Secretary earlier today, and this is an important news point that really came from the briefing that he did, and I'm glad the Finance Ministry is out there in full force, at least trying to dispel the panic that's been created in the system. You for one, the DA Secretary on the other. He said very categorically that we have stopped printing of 2,000 rupee notes for now. Amount of 2,000 rupee notes in the system is adequate. Now, is that a wise thing to do when you are going to see this kind of a cash crunch, because the number of notes required to suffice for 2,000 rupee notes that are perhaps being hoarded or out of the system is a lot more. You need 400 500 rupee notes to replace one 2,000 rupee note currency. So I'm just trying to understand, is it wise to stop printing this currency as of now? And why is it being done?
Well, this was a judgment that was made over the last several months, depending on what was understood as the demand. Remember, at the end of the day, there is also demand for small notes, and in everyday usage, those small notes, 500 and below, is what is really used. Now, of course, there is some demand for 2,000 rupee notes as well, but at that time, it was judged that it was adequate. You know, we will meet, as I said, whatever requirements there may be going forward. This is something that evolves all the time.
If I may quickly point out an SBI report that very categorically says that the RBI may actually be holding back about 2,000 rupee notes, and that needs to come back into the system. Is it fair to presume here that to tide over this cash crunch or cash crisis that we are seeing, we will be resorting to more high denomination currency to be influxed in the system that's faster to do and perhaps will take care of the immediate crisis, immediate shortage?
Well, all options will be explored, and whatever is practical will be done. We don't have some sort of preconceived notion of exactly what the response should be. Whatever is required will be done.
I'm going to ask you a conspiracy theory of sorts, and more conspiracy, more practical and pragmatic than conspiracy. And you'll have to indulge me, because as journalists, we go looking for news and we go looking for conspiracies, and sometimes, more often than not, they come true. A lot of experts out there who we've been speaking to understand this cash crisis suggest that it is also the rise in service tax levels that we have seen over the years, which may have attributed to more cash being used. From very few services being under the service tax, we've now seen, tax levels of 18% under the GST, which have consistently gone up over the years in various budgets, budget 2015, budget 2016, and all of that. And people believe it's easier and perhaps less expensive to pay for cash for most services. Are you somebody who subscribes to that view? Could that be one of the reasons, really?
As I said, I will believe everything as long as there's evidence for it. I don't think the evidence of to make this case has been fully put together. So, as I said, I'm open-minded, but it's even possible. But as I said, the evidence for this has not yet been put together, and the case is not yet something that has been proven. So, as I said, it is possible, but I would not like to speculate on it, given the evidence available.
Fair point. The DA Secretary very categorically also said that they may have seen some tendencies of hoarding of high value currency of 2,000 crore rupees. It's about 6.7 lakh crores in the system. So almost 1/3 of the currency in the system is actually the high value, high denomination 2,000 crore rupee currency. And it is common knowledge. You and I will both know that the hoarders will perhaps hoard 2,000 rupees and not the smaller denomination. My question really is on behavioral change. One thought after demonetization that was done in 2016, one is going to see a mindset, a behavior change. Will you accept and will you concede that India perhaps hasn't changed its behavior? India perhaps continues to behave in the very same way if indeed there is hoarding of currency that's happening, and you know the picture seems to suggest there is, and that's exactly what the Secretary is alluding to as well.
Certainly, I mean, it's possible that some of this 2,000 rupee denomination notes are being hoarded. However, let me also caution about drawing grand conclusions from a few days of shortage, because you know these are long-term behavioral trajectories, and there is a danger that we may be unnecessarily reading too much into it. Nonetheless, it's a fair enough issue that we need to look at, and obviously, if this behavior persists, that means that you know a certain kind of behavior did not change. But as I said, there is a let us not take a single episode of sudden shortage to sort of begin drawing too many strong conclusions from it.
But you know, the reason why I asked you that question is if you actually see the rise in digital payments, in digital transactions, that has gone up consistently, and it's important to tell our viewers here that everything was not in vain. In November 2016, 95 crore digital payments happened. In January 2018, that number went up to 182 crores. Now, how are you going to then say that, you know, is cash also accelerating? Is the demand for cash also accelerating at the same pace at which digital transactions are happening? I mean, how are you going to marry the two seemingly opposite, opposite theories that come out of this?
So this is precisely the point I'm making, that we tend to take a single point and make grand extrapolations on it. So that's why we have contradictory trends and data coming through. One, obviously, these denominated cash demand for high denomination, but at the same time, electronic payments going up. And of course, one could argue that they are different activities. One is transactional, one is sort of storage of value. And so they are somewhat different activities. So only when over long periods of time, when the data accumulates, you will be able to make the case for it. But in policy making, we can't wait for that. We have to respond as things go. And so as the situation arises with this cash crunch situation, we will respond by putting more cash into the ATMs and banks, so that those who have genuine need for it can go out and take it. So let me end by saying that, look, there is no crisis. There is as much cash as you need will be provided, and we will make sure in the next few days this ATM cash dispensation problem will be sorted out.
Dr. Sanyal, I have two quick last questions before I let you go, and these are and this is a good one here. A lot of people also out there believe that the high demand for cash could be a sign of high credit offtake. It could be a sign of higher economic activity. Are you someone who's as hopeful and optimistic?
It's possible. I mean, the economy was generally picking up, towards the beginning of this calendar year. So it's possible that people are demanding more cash because there's more economic activity. But as I said, I am always skeptical about using one-point data to make grand, forecasts. So unless we have better understanding of what this is causing this, let me not begin to do what economists very often do, is make grand proclamations and then give elaborate explanations later on of why they were wrong. So let me say that this is certainly, the demand spurt is unusual. We are responding to it as we get more data and printing notes and sending it out and so on. Both the Reserve Bank and the Finance Ministry are working very closely on this, and we will sort it out. Speculating on exactly what happened, we can only, at this juncture, wait for a proper investigation to work it out.
So just to assuage concerns at this stage, one of the most responsible voices in Finance Ministry is here telling us there is no need to panic, because the conspiracy theory and speculators out there are saying there could be a run on the banks because of this whole clause in the FRDI bill. We are seeing a lot of withdrawals that are happening. You believe none of that is true, and you're telling people not to panic. My last question to you, and I think as a journalist I will take this liberty to ask you the question. Cash seems to be king all over again, and many people believe, given that demonetization was perhaps an exercise in futility and in vain. How are you going to defend that?
Well, as I said, demonetization had many, many agendas. One of them was, of course, to flush out black money, that bit of the black money that remains in cash. I mean, obviously, black money is stored in many, many ways, including real estate. But it was, you must remember, it was not something that was done in isolation. It was a part of a wider effort to basically impose a rule-based system on the economy. And so it was part of a long cycle which included, incidentally, many other things, which, for example, the cleaning up of the banks, the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code and its application through the NCLT, which, by the way, is taking place as we speak, the GST imposition. So it was the beginning of a cycle of introducing a new framework for the economy. So if you just take one part of it, then you will not see the wider effort that is being made. And many of these efforts have now borne fruit. I mean, the banks, many of the problems with the banks, the NPAs and so on, have got recognized. We are actually seeing the auctioning of many of the bad assets of the banks. Similarly, for whatever it's worth, we now do have a GST. It took a little while. There were hiccups in the beginning, but now it more or less works. And I hope that in the next few months, it will begin to work perfectly well. So all of these things, many things were put in place. So the demonetization was simply the first sort of step in that entire rebuilding of the frameworks on which this economy functions. And 15 months later, we are in a completely different universe, so to speak, as far as the foundational frameworks of this economy. So in that context, I would say demonetization should be seen as just the first salvo, and not just seen in terms of the narrow aspect of cash.
Right. Sanjeev Sanyal, before I let you go, and considering you wearing your principal economic advisor's hat in North Block, will you concede that the Mint Street has been found wanting as far as the supply crunch at the level of printing is concerned? Has RBI been found wanting in that job at this stage?
So let me say that I wouldn't like to comment on my colleagues at the Reserve Bank of India. It's an excellent institution and they work very hard, and I'm sure they will respond very, very quickly.
All right, on that optimistic note, thanks very much for speaking to us. That's Sanjeev Sanyal, Principal Economic Advisor in the Ministry of Finance, a man who wears many, many hats, and one of them is to assuage concerns when they come on account of a possible run on the banks given the cash crisis. But thanks very much, Sanjeev Sanyal, for sparing time and speaking to us right here at TT. Now on that note, we'll take a quick breather. We come back with plenty more right here on the channel. Stay right here with us.